Good evening, everyone. I'm Kim Anderson, and welcome to our town hall. We are in downtown Mobile, Addicted in Alabama, and we're talking about drug addiction here. Today is International Overdose Awareness Week, and we've got a lot of things going down here in Cathedral Square, and we've got resources on how to help you or a family member who may be addicted to drugs. Right now, standing by is my colleague Darwin Singleton, who's also down here with us tonight. Darwin?
Hey, the big important thing, Kim, is that if you can't make it down here at this hour, we're live, of course. If you can't make it down here, that is okay. Throughout the next hour, we're going to introduce you to what could become your team, your personal team, to overcome addiction with opioids. We've got a number of groups around the Cathedral Square here. I want you to swing around here and see that on both sides of the green here, we have got resources. These are people who understand your situation. These are people who've been through this and are dealing with it right now. Some family members, they're professionals, but we're going to be talking to as many of them as we can. We will be airing this again later at your convenience on our Facebook page. So if you want to share this with a family member or someone you love a little bit later, you can do that as well. In the meantime, Kim, we're going to go get positioned for our first interview. We're going to toss it back to you and a very special guest.
All right, Darwin, thank you. We've got Virginia Guy joining us with the Drug Education Council. Thank you for being out with us tonight. Thank you for inviting us to this event tonight, Virginia. It is International Overdose Awareness Week. Tell us a little bit about what this means.
This is an international day to recognize and remember those that we've lost to drug addiction. We know that we've lost too many. Drug overdoses were up over 30% this past year during the pandemic. So we want to highlight and remember the people we've lost. We also want to reach out to those still suffering, and then we want to celebrate those in recovery.
Now, last year, we know that we all got hit hard by the pandemic, and that brought on depression around a lot of people. So we had over 93,000 people that died from overdoses last year.
That's right, and that's so tragic, and we will never forget those people, and we don't want their deaths to be in vain. We want to raise awareness that there is help available, and we've got a tremendous number of resources out here, and we want to encourage families, if they have a loved one suffering with substance use disorder addiction, to please reach out and call.
Yeah, you know what, that's a problem that we were talking about, and we're going to bring David Grayson on with the Gulf Coast families and the opioid epidemic, and the stigma of so many people who don't want to talk about family members who are addicted to drugs. And you and I were talking, you lost your daughter to addiction.
Yeah, I did, and it was horrible, and I'm still not over it, and it was 5 years ago, and I don't want it to happen to anybody else.
Tell us a little bit about your daughter, the type of person she was.
She was unique. She was my youngest of 5 kids. She was perfect. She was beautiful. She went to the best schools in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm from Mobile. I grew up in Midtown Mobile, but I had my career was outside of Mobile, most of the time in Atlanta. So she grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, nice suburbs, nice home, nice schools. But somewhere along the way, she decided she was going to drink alcohol. And for Mary Catherine, that was not a good decision because, unfortunately, her daddy gave her some bad genes. And I had a lot of alcoholism in my family. So when that happened, she started going from alcohol to something, and she ended up telling her mom, I want to try heroin.
Wow.
And that was a death sentence. When she shot up, then
she couldn't let go.
She couldn't let go of that.
Now, David, let's talk to the parents who think that, okay, this only happens to maybe college kids or high school kids, but your daughter was in middle school.
She was in 8th grade. I was just in Atlanta this weekend. I passed by the stadium, St. Pius High School football, and she was an 8th grader at a high school football game, but she was with her friends from a nice parochial school, and now I still have horrible regrets that she found herself drinking in the 8th grade. For her, it was a death sentence, not that the drinking, but it just led to other things that eventually got her.
And Virginia, you've talked about this before. When children start drinking at a young age, that makes them more likely to become addicts.
Right. We know that 90% of addiction begins in the teen years. So the longer a parent can delay the onset of any kind of drug use, the less likely their child will become addicted later in life. So we want to delay. We know that if a child starts drinking at 14, they've got a 47% chance of becoming addicted. That same child waits until they're 21, it drops down to 9%. That is statistically significant.
Now let's talk about, you're saying delay as parents. What can we do to delay it? I mean, what are some things that we need to do, or what are some signs we need to look out for?
First of all, monitor your children's money, their friends, their time. Spend a lot of time with them. Start talking to them early. Talk early, talk often. Make sure they know your family values. You know, prevention is an everyday thing. It's not like a one or done. You've got to get up every morning, and it's hard. It's hard raising raising children. Parenting is the hardest job in the world because there's so many negative influences coming at kids through social media, through their friends, so you've got to just stay extra vigilant. We have the DeBakey Drug Education Vehicle here that's got some wonderful resources. We'll be glad to help parents find the resources they need to talk to their children.
And you hit it right on the nail. Parenting is the hardest job ever. We're going to come back and we're going to finish talking to y'all in just a few minutes. Right now, we're going to toss it over to Darwin Singleton, who has more stories from families who have lost loved ones to addiction.
You know, Kim, I've only been here for about an hour, but I've had several families walk up to me and tell me their stories. And quite frankly, a lot of them really surprise me. It's not always what you expect. We're going to talk about this gentleman right here. Unfortunately, Jace Waters isn't with us anymore, but his family is, and they're trying to make a difference with the Jace Waters Foundation. I'm going to talk to his mother, and this is Julie. Julie, good to see you, dear.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Hey, first of all, before we talk about what your foundation is, tell me a little bit about Jace and who he was and why he was so important to you.
Well, Jace was your average, bright young man, grew up in Baldwin County, loved sports, hunting and fishing, just loved baseball. In fact, it was while he was practicing baseball for his school team that he hurt his back. And in hurting his back, the doctor prescribed Loratab and physical therapy. And little did we know at the time where that was going to lead us.
You know, I've heard that story from a lot of young people. A lot of people think it's you just fall into the bad crowd. That is not the case. Sometimes you're prescribed these drugs and you fall into it quite innocently. But of course, we're not here to talk about why somebody did it, and we're here to talk about how we can get help. What do you offer in Jace's honor? I know you have a run every year to finance what you do, but what do you do?
Well, the mission of the Jace Waters Foundation is to help those who have been through a recovery program to do that next step into transitional living or sober living, because so many, after they finish a treatment, will go back and relapse, and that was what happened with Jace. So after they've finished treatment, a lot of them do not have the financial means to go to that next step. So we are able to scholarship those that are interested in going into the next step to sober living, to give them that leg up so they don't have to worry about the finances of getting into the program and continue their recovery.
Yeah, because if you can't make a living or you can't afford to do it, then suddenly you're back out on the street and then you're riding the same thing again. Okay, now when is your run? Oh, I've got the T-shirt here and I want to find out about that.
Yes, we have the Hub City Classic every year. It will be April 2nd, 2022. Yeah. On a Saturday. I get my years mixed up. It's a 5K, 10K run and a 1 mile fun run, and it will be in Robertsdale, Alabama at the Honeybee Park.
Excellent. Okay, you never dreamed you would be a spokesperson, did you?
Never in my wildest dreams. It's amazing what this can do, and you know, this was Jace's idea. He wanted to help others while he was in recovery, and we worked on a few things, but you know, he ran out of time. But Mama's going to carry on what needs to be done.
Well, Dad and family and everybody, I know this is a very tight group here. I've talked to some of you. Well, we appreciate you sharing that story. The Jace Waters Foundation, I'm sure you can go online and Google Jace Waters and you'll find all the information you need to know that's in this brochure, and do that, because someone in this family could be the person that reaches out and touches the loved one that you're worried about right now, maybe even you. I'm going to toss it back to Kim now.
All right, Darwin, and that's so important, to reach out to someone who has been there and has gone through what you're going through. Don't try to handle it yourself. David, Darwin was just talking to Julie Waters from the Jace Waters Foundation, and she was saying one of the same things that you said. When Jace was going through treatment, he asked his mother to please carry on and help somebody else because he didn't want anybody else to go through what he was going through. And you said your daughter said the same thing.
Well, yes, she did. She asked me specifically, she said, Dad, promise me this thing's probably going to kill me. This thing is gnarly. That's the way she would say it. And you've got to do what you can to save the addicts because this thing is so horrible, and don't let anybody else go through what I'm going through. So that's pretty strong when your little girl asks you to do that. Unfortunately, her prophecies turned out to be true. It did kill her. She overdosed, but I'm trying to do what I can as just a dad. I'm not that's all I am. I just lived this life for many years. Went through some great rehab, some of the best clinicians and best rehab in the country, and she would have periods of sobriety and healthiness, but she would always relapse.
Wow. Now, you hear this a lot because you deal with a lot of families and addicts yourself. The treatment that they have, it doesn't always work. Why? I think that's a lot of questions that people who don't understand drugs really want to know. Family members.
Right. Well, treatment works. What we have to understand is that it is a chronic, progressive, potentially fatal disease. So you can't just go to treatment, come home, and you're good to go. It's a little bit like a diabetic can't go into a diabetic coma, get straightened out in the hospital, go home, and start eating whatever they want to. You know, a person in recovery has to get up every single morning doing something about their recovery. So it's the long-termness of it. Sometimes the treatment works. And I hear families talk about people graduating, from treatment and then they relapse. They don't do the aftercare and the follow-up. And we've got some people here to talk about that continuum of care, and it's important. It is a lifetime of taking care of yourself.
It's a battle that you're going to have to, but you can win.
Right, and it's a wonderful life. The longer you get in recovery, the more joyful it becomes, and the better it is for the family and for the individual. So there's a lot of hope in this.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about treatment in just a few minutes. Right now, we're going to go back to Darwin Singleton, who's at Veterans Recovery. Darwin?
Yeah, I visited this place about a couple weeks ago, and it's a new establishment on Spring Hill Avenue that is trying to fill the needs, especially medical needs, the psychological needs of veterans who desperately need help, especially when it comes to drug addiction. That's just one of the ailments that some veterans have to deal with. John Kilpatrick, you are with the Veterans Recovery Resources facility on Spring Hill Avenue. First of all, tell us what you do.
So Veterans Recovery Resources, we started, I guess, back in 2015, and really just to address the issue of barriers to care. So believe it or not, we have veterans who don't qualify for VA benefits. We don't have a real treatment facility here, so the nearest treatment is really over in Biloxi. And so just as part of my own recovery, I'm trying to help other veterans get sober and find recovery, and there just seem to be a lot of things in the way of doing that.
Well, now this is one of the things that's going to remove a lot of those obstacles. This facility that's being built over on, it's actually being renovated. This building is already over there. It's really exciting to see what you guys are doing. But the purpose of what you're doing, you have a personal experience. It's easy for people dealing with post-war or to fall into medication, I guess. And sometimes it's been prescribed to them, correctly?
Well, we're kind of tired of this narrative that veterans are broken or something like that. So the best way to explain it is what a lot of veterans and what folks who experience trauma are experiencing is a perfectly human reaction to a really crazy situation. And so oftentimes what we try to do is really just help people build their story around that experience. So we don't start with what's wrong with you. We start with what happened.
Yeah.
And so that's we call that a trauma-informed approach. So we start there, and then we just try to figure it out, what they need. And the way we do it, the veteran is really directing their own program. They're going to do the work.
Right.
We're just kind of guides along the way. And it's really helpful to have somebody who's been there. And so that's really where we start.
I think it's interesting that, and we were talking about this, making sure that viewers at home know we are not laying blame at anybody's feet when it comes to opioid addiction. Everybody has different reasons for why they got in that situation. We're here right now to get you out of it. And that is why you're here. So I think it's interesting you say that we're doing We want to find out your story. Not point a finger, but find out your story and see where we go next. So if there's any veteran out there who's dealing with this right now, what should they do?
Give us a call. Give us a call. Chances are, whatever you're experiencing, somebody at Veterans Recovery Resources has probably had that same experience.
What's the number, and do you know the number off your? Because you don't call it probably.
Number. I don't call it very often, but the phone number is 251-405-3677, and that phone's answered 24 hours a day by a veteran. And so you can call that number 24 hours a day, and a veteran is going to answer the phone. You can also go to our website, which is www.vetsrecover.org.
It's easy enough. And we'll be airing this again on our Facebook page later this evening. If you miss it or you need to recheck some of these addresses or phone numbers, you'll find it again there. All right, Kim, we'll toss it back to you.
All right, Darwin, thanks again. Again, if you're just joining us, we are at Cathedral Square here in downtown Mobile. It is our town hall, Addicted in Alabama, and today is International Overdose Awareness Week. So there's a big event downtown. If you are struggling yourself with opioid addiction or addictions to drugs, and you have a family member that it is, come down here. We have a plethora of information to kind of help you out. And joining me now is Cherish Brannon with Genesis Counseling and Consulting Services. Cherish, I was talking to Virginia and David just a minute ago about treatment. And David had a daughter who, of course, was addicted, he was saying. And Virginia was saying that treatment is lifetime. It's not something that you just do and then you, bam, you're cured and that's it.
Absolutely, Kim. And first, I'd just like to say, I know there's a lot of other things going on out here in the world today that deserve your time and attention, but thank you for you guys covering this event, because we're here to spread awareness about overdose. You're exactly right. Addiction is a lifelong disease. It is not something where a lot of people think, oh, I can go to rehab for 90 days and I come out and I'm cured. It's not that at all. It is a lifelong battle, like having diabetes or high blood pressure or something like that. The first step is always an assessment to determine what it is that people really need, Kim, and those assessments are just a phone call away. Secondly, there are a number of different kind of treatment options out there for people that I think they just don't know about. There's medical detox. There is high-intensity residential treatment. There's a lower intensity residential treatment. There's transitional treatment. There's medication assisted treatment for people who need medication to assist them with cravings and to possibly prevent overdose. That's our goal here today. It really is.
Now, some people are saying that they can't afford it, or it may be that they have a family member and they just can't afford this treatment. But there's help for everyone.
There is help, Kim. There are so many different roads to recovery out there, and it's important that the public be aware of these things, because there are faith-based programs that charge little to nothing. There are state-funded programs that charge no fee. There's private pay options for people who have insurance. There's self-pay for people who have some income but not enough. So we're actually covering all the gaps here in order for people to be able to access treatment easily, quickly, and save lives.
So there's help for everyone. Let's talk about Cherish. People who say, oh, you know, it's not going to happen to me. It won't happen to anybody in my family, not my kids.
Wow, Kim, exactly. I've heard that so many times. And what we actually see is that overdose happens so much and so frequently, especially when people have that mentality of, I can go to rehab, they can go to rehab, they come back and they're cured without aftercare. Aftercare, after treatment is so important, because treatment can certainly lay the foundation for a new life. But after treatment, we have to continue the work that we've already started. And so overdose many times happens right when people leave treatment, because their body no longer is tolerant to what they were using before. They may relapse once and the overdose occurs, and we lose a valuable life every time.
And for those people who don't really understand, and I kind of reference into this, you can get addicted. I mean, it's something that your body craves, kind of like some of us crave coffee. Right. I mean, it can be that easy, because I get headaches, but I don't, I mean, not to be funny, but I have withdrawals when I don't have my coffee.
Exactly. It is something that people crave. Addiction is a disease of the brain. It truly changes the actual brain structure where we want to have the drug to feel normal. When it takes and it hijacks your brain, you then develop tolerance and you then develop cravings. And we want it just like we want sugar, just like we want caffeine. And when we don't have those things, we will do what it takes to get it. You know about the cup of coffee in the morning. We're going to get that cup of coffee.
My husband said he's going to hide that $5 a day. All right, Sheriff, thanks so much. We're going to toss it back to Darwin Singleton right now with more on what is going on down here at Cathedral Square.
You know, one thing, Kim, I hadn't thought about until I saw a sign on our next guest's podium was that you could possibly be providing drugs to a family member, not even know it. You could be that person. You don't mean to be, but you could be. And that's why we're going over here to the DEA, the Sheriff's Office. You're with the DEA, right? Okay. This is, make sure you get the name right, it's Tawanda Thorne James.
Yes.
I can barely remember my own, but
Understood.
hey, real quickly here, I'm really impressed by this sign here, and I want to grab one of these real quick. It says, "Don't be the dealer." What do you mean by that?
Well, unfortunately, 257 people die due to drug overdose in the United States every day.
Every day.
Every day. And 75% of those deaths are related to opioid overdoses. And so one of the many initiatives that the DEA has set forth to combat the issue is our National Take Back Day. And what that means is that you can responsibly discard your prescribed medications so that they don't fall into the wrong hands at one of our events. We have them twice a year, April, and our next one is scheduled for October 23rd. And so we definitely welcome you to seek more information at dea.gov regarding our National Take Back Day.
You know, the Sheriff's Department, and I see their logo down here beneath yours,
Yes.
they have a spot down at the substation in Theodore where you can drop those off. It's like a little bank vault thing where you can actually drop them off anytime.
Absolutely,
So
yes.
if you feel like you've got something in the house that doesn't need to be there and you don't know how to get rid of it, don't wait. Go ahead and get rid of it.
Absolutely. You can go on our website and find locations that are always ready to take your unused prescriptions and medications.
You know, I don't think a lot of people realize what they even have in the medicine cabinet anymore, because you've got some old painkillers. Say maybe you had a back injury or something.
Yes.
You didn't take them all because, well, you didn't need to.
Yes.
But there they are, and that's tempting.
Yes, it is tempting, and they're there just waiting to fall into the wrong hands, and sometimes it's unbeknownst to the individual that they were prescribed to. So the best recourse is just to get rid of them as immediately. As soon as you are done taking them or you realize that you don't need them anymore, just get rid of them responsibly.
And we try to encourage you not to flush them, because that goes into the water system too, and we don't need all that.
That's right.
But okay, so this is something that you'll do in October. Do you have the exact date yet, or are you going to let us know? We'll
October 23rd, but there will be definitely advertisements coming out promoting our Take Back Day, and we just ask that you would again visit our website, dea.gov, for more information.
Very good. Thank you so much for all you do, and we really appreciate it. All right, Kim, back to you.
All right, Darwin, thank you. Joining me now is Haley Beeson with The Landing. And let me tell you a little bit about Haley. Haley has a fascinating story because she herself was an addict, and now she is doing great. You can see her. She's fabulous, beautiful, and she is helping other women beat the addiction. Haley, tell me a little bit about your story first.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your story.
Yes, well, I did have a lot of issues with opiate addiction from the time I was 14 years old. I finally got sober at 29 when I completely burned my life to the ground, and I did 18 months in residential sober living, and it absolutely changed my life. Oftentimes, people with substance use disorder go back and forth because we think, okay, I can just go to detox, or okay, I can just go to treatment, and we go right back home, and we're not understanding that being in recovery and maintaining permanent sobriety is a lifelong journey, and you need to really go somewhere for an additional 6 months, 12 months, a year or more to learn all about this new life of recovery, because we have to change everything. And the most important thing to not continue to go back out is to change your peer group and change the way you think, change your lifestyle. And recovery residences are amazing because you can find all different ones to fit your need. Throughout the state of Alabama, we have so many different ones to choose from, and from the length of time that you're there. And you just get to relearn everything about life, because while you have been suffering from substance use disorder, that's the only thing you've dealt with. So you come into recovery and you've got to learn how to get up and go to work, how to make dinner, how to just have a conversation with somebody, and get very deeply involved into recovery community through 12 steps or Celebrate Recovery, whatever path you choose. But being in a recovery residence teaches you how to do that. And once you get a sense of community and you find your people and your tribe, the connection's back. And you're no longer searching for a substance to fill you up because you've been given this new life. And when you just give it away to somebody else, your whole world comes together.
Oh, that's amazing. And that's what made you start an organization to help women. And speaking of, you've got some of your ladies that are here with us today that you're helping. Tell me about how you started that and your motivation, obviously, of course, was to help other women get back on their feet.
Yeah, me and my husband got together and he said, hey, I want to open a recovery residence. And I was scared to death. And I said, no, I don't think I can do it. I was so scared I would fail. Thank goodness he believed in me, because I said, no, I don't think I'm going to do it. And he knew the right thing to say. He said, well, I'll find somebody else. And I was like, no, I'll do it. And so we created the landing. And I remember being terrified in the beginning. What if nobody comes, you know? But if you stand strong, teach what you believe, teach women how to change and recreate their lives, they keep coming. I've never had to worry about that, you know? I like to say God sends me the right women that need to hear what I have to say and the message that I have to carry. And it's that if you're battling with substance use disorder, you think your life's over. But when you step into recovery, you realize, oh my goodness, it just begun. Now I can live. We don't know when we're in the depths of it that there's something on the other side. And it takes being sat somewhere for a good amount of time to realize, okay, now my life's just beginning. Now I can be and have and do anything that I want. And I can do it with a clear head and a good heart and an open mind, and I can help people.
That's amazing. How many women do you think you've helped with your program in the landing?
Oh, wow. Probably, we have been in business 8 years this year, and I would say it's close to 100 or 200. Yeah, amazing. I would never believe that. Yeah.
But, I mean, let's talk about exactly what you do to help them and how long your program is.
Okay, my program is 12 months, and I'm a pretty strict and structured program. So we have a strict structured schedule every day. We get up in the mornings. We have a really big morning meditation is what we call it. I come in, I kind of hype them all up and get everybody motivated for the day. We spend a lot of the day studying the big book. We go to 12-step meetings. We cook dinner together, we eat dinner together, and we also go out and work in the community. So we have a job, we're becoming responsible, productive members of society again, and we're living life. And 12 months is so scary at first. But when you get there and you get settled in, the time flies by. And then at 6 months and 12 months, you're like, oh no, you know, am I ready? And a lot of girls make a commitment for another year. And that's when the magic happens, you know, that you're just dedicating your newfound sobriety in life to see what can come as long as you stay connected to the tribe. Recovery's amazing, and you just don't know it until you get into it.
And you're helping them to believe in themselves again.
Yes.
Which is so
more
important.
Than anything. Yes.
All right, Haley, thank you so much. We're going to go back now to Darwin Singleton, who's got a lot going on. There's so much going on here down in Cathedral Square. Darwin, tell us about where you are now.
I'm with members of the Mobile Fire Department, Stephen Millhouse and his assistant here, C.J. Hunter. And here's what we're talking about. Sometimes when people overdose on opioids, that can be it, unless they're near someone who has what you guys have, and this is called Narcan. And I'm going to ask you, Stephen, what is it and how does it work?
Well, Narcan is an opioid anti-antagonist. So what it does is it goes into the body, kind of attaches to the opioid in your system, and if you're in a life-threatening situation, in an overdose type situation, and the difference between life and death at that point could be the proper administration of Narcan.
Lots of stories about people who've been almost brought back from the dead. People compare it to that. And CJ actually has one of these devices, and now I want to take a good close look at it, because this may be the first time a lot of our viewers have seen this. So how's it administered?
We got 3 ways we can administer it. It goes in intravenously. If we have IV, goes in intramuscular, which is in the arm, and a shot, and then we also can do it nasally.
Oh, wow. Okay,
That's
so
why we do this. That's why we have this part in an atomizer. That's what we're going to display today.
okay, so you're displaying the atomizer today, or okay? So does it's got to get into your bloodstream, basically, right?
Right.
Okay, and if it's through your nostrils, then that's a direct route to your bloodstreams as
Yes,
well.
it is.
How fast does it work?
IV, it works within 2 minutes, but any other route is between 2 and 5 minutes.
So it's really fast then.
Pretty fast.
Okay. Have you ever administered this before?
Not yet, not just yet, not in the field, only in practice and in the training type settings, but never in the field.
Have you, CJ?
I have.
Tell me what it's like when you inject someone with this that you think is they're done, and suddenly they're back.
Well, initially it start off with little to no respirations, and they're unconscious. But when you give it to them, we try to give it to them slow, because when you give it to them rapidly, they'll come out of it real quick, and then they may get sick on you, or be combative as well. So,
Okay. And who has this on them in the department?
All of our units, all of our rescue units in the field, which are staffed by paramedics, and then all of our engines and ladder truck companies carry them as well.
Okay, so it's got to be there when you need it. And let's take a look at that one more time. You said now this is a nasal spray. That's
atomizer in here.
Oh, okay. So that's actually
It breaks up the fluid, so we make it to a light mist.
okay.
where
So
it
the
goes
bag
into
is
your
part
nasal.
of it, or no?
Right.
This is it. Okay.
Right. So it's this. This is the Narcan itself. This is the atomizer.
Oh, okay.
This is the syringe that come with it.
Okay.
Take the safety caps off, and this is water, by the way. We didn't.
Oh,
we
okay.
don't
Very
have the real
good.
deal.
All right. No, you want to
All
save
right.
that for somebody who needs it, right?
Take all the safety caps off. Screw this on the end here.
I've heard this talked about, but I have never seen it actually. So
All
this is
right.
pretty
And we actually
fascinating.
put the atomizer on.
So now this works either with the hypodermic needle or the atomizer, and you just push it,
and
the
then when I
plunger
push
in.
it gives a light mist, and they know that way we're not drowning them when we give it to them.
And that is what can save and has saved hundreds and thousands of lives, I'm sure.
Yes, it has.
Okay,
Yes, it has.
wow. Pretty fascinating, worth the investment. No questions asked. The thing is to get the patient back with us among the living, right?
Absolutely. First thing you want to do is call 911. Of course, if you have someone who's down, if you're in the public and you have access to Narcan, call 911, get the paramedics and proper medical units en route. And then if you're certified or trained to administer Narcan, then certainly follow the steps that Captain Hunter just showed and take care of it from there.
All right. Of course, the best way is to not get in that situation, but we know it happens. So this is a very important part of trying to keep these people alive until they can get into recovery. Kim?
All right, Darwin, that is so very important, too, that those are handy because it has proven to save so many lives. Joining me now is Karen Elmore, who is what you call a peer support specialist. And Karen, you're training to get your certification to help other addicts. Why?
Because I want to help the recovering addict just like me. I didn't know something like this existed. And when they said you would make a great certified recovery support specialist, I was like, what's that? And that's where it all started.
Let's hear about your story because we're hearing some amazing stories. You were addicted for how long?
37 years.
And you started at what age?
I started smoking marijuana at the age of 13.
13.
13.
And, I mean, you were in middle school.
Yes.
How long have you been sober?
6 years.
Did you ever think you were going to get to this point?
No.
No. Why?
Because I didn't think there would be a life of sobriety. I didn't think it would be any fun, and it's just not true. I got clean in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, and there was this wonderful person there, and I can't say her name because anonymous, and she showed me how to have fun. It's the first time I played Cards Against Humanity, and I had a really great time, and she took me to an event for women. And I said, I'll be back next year with a year. And they did this thing called the Clean Time Countdown. And I was the last person to stand up. And I didn't want to do that ever again. I wanted to be in the middle. I never wanted to be in the end again. I may never be first because I didn't get clean until I was 50. But I don't have to be in the end if I don't want to.
That makes a difference.
Yes, and so working in addiction keeps me grounded because I'm reminded every single day of who I never want to be again. I work for people engaged in recovery, peer. I'm a certified recovery support specialist for the state of Alabama. And what that means is we help bridge the gap from active addiction to recovery. All the pathways to recovery. Peer is a state certified agency, so we can only use state certified. That's all we can refer to. We have detox treatment, outpatient. We also do MAT. You know what that is?
No, what is MAT?
Medicated assisted treatment,
Okay.
which is an opiate blocker. And then there's state funds for that as well. I've been doing this for 3 years, so I kind of know it inside and out.
So basically half of your recovery, you've been helping other addicts.
Yes, always.
Now, let's talk about one thing that we're going to wrap up real quick is you were saying that you were never, because you think about addicts, you think about people on the street and begging for money, but that was not you.
Oh, no, ma'am. I had a great family. My parents were together 54 years when my mother passed. I was raised in church. I knew all the right things. I had morals. The only people I stole from were my parents. And Dad, if you're listening, you know I'm sorry. Because I never wanted to go to prison. But I've been arrested countless times. And the last judge said, one mistake and you're going to prison. And my dad used to call me lucky. Because I didn't go.
All right, such a fascinating story. Thank you. Karen, we're going to go right now to Darwin Singleton, who's at one of the booths now where there's a lot more things going on. Darwin?
All right. This is something that caught my eye as soon as I pulled up here. It's the drug education vehicle by the DeBakey Drug Education Forum.com. Well, we'll get that address in just a second here, but since we're going inside, we want to be careful because of COVID, naturally, so we decided we'd wear our masks. And this is, this is Stephanie. Stephanie, what's your name?
My name is Stephanie Ellis.
And you're with Infirmary Health.
I work for Infirmary Foundation, Infirmary Health, and the DeBakey Drug Education Program, and we're also with the Drug Education Council.
Okay, so this is pretty amazing right here. I know it's geared toward young people, but I'm sure whatever young people learn, adults can sometimes learn too.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So we target 5th grade students in Baldwin, Mobile, Clark, Escambia, and Washington counties. And so it's the power of prevention. We're trying to prevent them from ever starting to do any of these drugs.
So you're trying to get their attention in the way that they're used to being talked to, with lots of computer screens, lots of bright colors. Just something that's fun and interactive, I guess.
Yes, that is interactive. In the front of the vehicle, we have a theater part where we have real human organs.
Oh, wow, these are real. I know it's kind of dark right now, but...
during this video...
Do they light
this
up?
One,
oh,
they will light up, but it'll talk too. Anyway, this is on the outside, they are organs that belong to people that did not use drugs. Oh, wow. On the inside, they belong to people that did use drugs.
So you can see, is this part of a brain here?
Yes, so this is a heart that belonged to someone that did not use drugs. This heart belonged to someone that was a cigarette smoker, and cigarette smoking made their heart enlarge. So I always tell them, you know, your chest cavity only has so much room for your heart to do its job, so they're all like that. This brain belonged to a cigarette smoker, and cigarette smoking caused this person to have a massive stroke, and the oxygen was cut from their brain, and it shriveled and died, as you can see. These are lungs. This lung belonged to someone that did not use drugs. This lung belonged to someone that was a cigarette smoker, and cigarette smoking caused them to have tar damage, tissue damage. And then this is a liver, and this liver belonged to someone that was an alcoholic and had cirrhosis of the liver. When it lights up during this video, you see more of the size and shape of it. But,
and the extent of the damage.
They're very interested in those real human organs.
Well, because they have one. You know, and some cases too. And I think, let's walk back down here because I and this is a little theater right here. I want to show it. You've crammed into this bus because it's really pretty amazing. It is a classroom and education tool on wheels.
Yes.
And I think one of the things when you were talking about the organs, I think kids have to be shown something dramatic before they realize that there is a consequence for everything. That's pretty dramatic.
That's pretty dramatic. And on the front we talk about the gateway drugs, about tobacco, marijuana, and alcohol. On the back we talk about more. And we have really added a lot of things about vaping because they don't realize the dangers of vaping.
Well, let's real quickly here. We've got to go, but where can kids see this if they haven't already seen it? Does it travel to their schools, or can they see it at a central location?
You can. My website is DeBakeyDrugEducation.com. You can go there and you can request that I contact them to schedule their school if I haven't already.
Okay.
And then if you are not in 5th grade and you're not in one of our schools, you can simply go to the DeBakeyDrugEducation.com and you can find our learning station, our interactive video, and the video from the front.
Oh, so you see all the things at
So
your house.
everything at your house, yes.
If you can't get out, we know that's been a thing lately.
Yes.
Okay, so once again, if you're watching this and you go, I didn't get that information, it's okay. We're going to post this entire show on our Facebook page a little bit later on tonight. Kim, back to you.
Okay. Hey, Darwin, thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm here just hearing all these fascinating stories that people have. And joining me now are Becky and Michael Bailey, who came down from this event to try to get some information to try to help others. Now, your story is a little different from some of the ones that we've been hearing from people who've been addicted as teenagers. Your son got addicted at 30. Tell us that story.
Well, actually, he was diagnosed with a kidney disease at 30. At age 34, he was referred by a nephrologist to go to a spine pain doctor. And the spine pain doctor wrote him prescriptions, a cocktail of prescriptions, but opioids for 8 months. And after 8 months, he decided that he was going to stop. And then it led to the illegal drugs that are out there laced with fentanyl.
So for 8 months, he was getting his drugs from prescription medication.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. And then when the doctors stopped doing that, he was already hooked. He was hooked. And so he had to have something. So he eventually turned to the streets. And of course, we all know a lot of the street cocktails and street formulas, a lot of them are laced with fentanyl. And during his autopsy, they found fentanyl in the system.
See, the thing is, we know that now.
Yeah,
we didn't know it in 2017.
And so how long after his addiction did your son pass away?
He passed away November 2017, and it was 2017 when this spine pain doctor was writing the drugs for him.
So within the same year?
Yes.
Within the same year. So it doesn't take long to become addicted to the drugs. And
he was writing them 90 tabs at a time.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
And then that turned into where he was, that wasn't enough for him. And so he needed something stronger. And he would take those and trade them in with his dealer and get the lace stuff. Or he didn't know it was lace, actually. But he would trade it in for the street stuff so he could get that, cover that pain, take care of that pain he was having. And then that's what eventually killed him. So.
Oh, wow. And there's so many people that don't realize that something like that, and I know that they've cracked down on a lot of doctors prescribing painkillers, but it's taken so many lives.
It has.
It has, and it's still taking lives. And I have a couple friends. One just lost her son this past Sunday to a drug overdose. And these are kids. I call them kids. These are people in their from 28 to 40. These are adults. So I have a message to say, parents, keep up with what you know what they're doing when they're little.
Yeah.
But even when they become adults, still follow them, still ask questions. Well, who are you hanging out with? What are you doing? Because you know as a parent something's wrong. You know something's wrong. And if I had known better and known more, I certainly, let me say, if your child is an addict and they're still alive and they're still breathing, you still have a chance to save them. Don't give up. You still have a chance to save them.
Some powerful words. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we're hearing so many amazing stories of people who have struggled and what has happened and how now they want to keep that from happening to your family members or someone you may love or know that is also struggling with addiction to opioids. We're going to go now to Darwin Singleton. Darwin, these stories are just amazing that we're hearing.
Yeah, I got indoctrinated very quickly. I walked into Cathedral Square and several people walked up and shared their stories immediately with me, and boy, it really jolts you into what we're talking about here. Sometimes you can reach out and actually access some of these stories and medical professional help as well, and this is one way to do it. Back Porch Chats, podcast with a purpose with Vince and Gina, backporchchats.com. It's so good to have you guys with us.
Great to be here. Thank you.
And I want to ask you real quickly, how long y'all been doing this?
We've been doing this a year. Yeah, really focused on it big time this last week, trying to make sure we got everything out and prepared for this event. But yeah.
Very good. And here's the thing. You guys, we're talking about opioids today, but you really focus on a variety of addictions, and a lot of times they go hand in hand. One goes with the other. So your podcast that you have a library of now, what do you cover? How many different issues do you cover?
Well, we cover anything that has to do with addiction, this disease that we have. So our subjects can be alcohol, drugs, sex addiction, gambling addiction. We'll cover topics about professional help, what kind of professional help that's out there, 12-step meeting type help, because that's where the sustainability, we got to move from the place where we're getting the professional help, but that really doesn't provide the sustainability that the community does. So we talk a lot about that and how to get started in that. Obviously, the 12 steps, how some of that works and how that can apply. And we also deal with the family. We got a lot of stuff out there about families, because this is not just a disease of the addict. This is a whole family system, and it affects.
And I think that's one important thing that you bring. Your audience isn't just those people who are suffering from addiction, it's the people who are suffering with that person.
Oh, yes.
And so when you do that, who do you hear from a lot of times when they want to listen to these?
Well, most of what our audience is recovering alcoholics, recovering addicts, and so we do hear a lot from that. With this event, we're now moving into working with the families a lot more. And in fact, I'll be working with Julie in the next couple of weeks to try and get more involved in what they're doing with that. But what it comes down to is that I believe, and a lot of people do, that addiction stems from shame, quite often from trauma, and that's not a one-person thing. That is a family thing. So we have to talk to the families. And currently I'm working on providing some courses. I'm working on them for the families to talk to their child, so that they don't include the stigma of addiction in those conversations.
You're right, and stigma is a word that keeps coming up when we're talking today, because we don't want people to be chased away by the things they've done in the past. We want them to cast their eye toward the future and see hope. And this is one place, I'd love to talk to you longer, but if I can just lead the horse to water, maybe they'll drink. Absolutely. This is it right here. Backporchchats.com. That is very easy to remember. Vince and Gina are waiting for you to listen to their podcast. They have a different one every week, or you can listen to them as they've got a library backed up. So you'll hear something that you want and need to hear. Thank you both for what you're doing. We really appreciate it. Backporchchats.com. Kim?
All right, Darwin, thanks a lot. And we've been hearing so many stories where we're out here today. Each story is so different. When you think about, addicts just get addicted by trying alcohol, then moving on up, but that's not always the case. As we just heard from the Baileys, now we're talking with Kimberly Wright. And Kimberly, your son's story is one, too, where prescription drugs started him on the road to addiction.
Correct. My son went through years of being diabetic. From the age of 4. He played ball all the way up through college, had some serious injuries in college. They began to give him prescription medication. And then to go out play on the field, they were injecting him. And that continued afterward. After he finished playing, the need for it continued. So basically it affected his regular prescriptions that he was using for his diabetes, and therefore had damage to his internal organs in his body. So over time, it affected him. Even though prior to his death he understood what was going on and he handled that situation, but the damage was already there.
How old was your son when he passed away?
He was almost 30. He died in June. His birthday would have been in August, and he would have been 30.
So he just passed away this year?
No, I'm sorry. He died in 2018. Yes, yes.
Now, you were saying that you've been blessed, though, with now having your grandson that you're raising.
Yes, yes. It's a blessing in disguise. Families go through a lot when we're going through the actual process of our loved ones going through addiction. But I was blessed because my son died. He left behind a child, and my grandson is 7. The Lord has blessed us. We're able to adopt him. So it's a blessing in disguise, even though I would have never dreamed at my age I would have been starting all over again. But it is a blessing. It is truly a blessing. And he looks identical to his father, and it helps us get through this process. Dealing with opioid and other drugs, prescription drugs, is very hard because society doesn't understand. They don't understand what it does to your body. They just think, well, that's a problem child or whatever. But that's not always the case. So I felt like my family was handed an extra blessing. Even though my grandchild asked about his dad regularly, which is amazing because he was only 4 years old when his dad died. And he still remembers him, and that's a blessing. But yes, we got a blessing in disguise.
All right, Kimberly, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We're going to go now back to Darwin Singleton with some more of what's going on here that you can catch down here at Cathedral Square. Darwin.
All right. This is a wall of messages and faces, and unfortunately the faces you see here are no longer with us. These are people who have passed away because of opioid addiction. And this one right here, as soon as I got here this morning, or this afternoon I should say, Chuck Hardy Ulmer. Chuck's mother came up to me and told me her story and immediately got me, Jessica, come on in here, immediately got me into the proper frame of mind because you told me your son, Chuck, became addicted very early on because of a medical situation. Tell me about that.
Yes, he broke his elbow in the 8th grade, and he broke it twice, and the doctors kept prescribing pills that, because they were prescribed, we gave them to him and monitored, and never had any idea that that was the beginning of his addiction until many, many years later.
When you say many, many years, you're talking, he was, what, 30 when he passed away?
He was 31. He turned 31 in April of this year.
Wow.
And he died on the 21st of June, which is my mom's birthday.
Wow.
And we struggled for 15 years. We never gave up hope. The message that I can give people is educate other people. I beg you, just don't turn a blind eye to this. If you think that you or your child or anybody you know needs help, reach out and try to get help and keep your eyes open. And just notice things. Yeah. Notice everything.
We appreciate that. I wish we had more time to talk, but this is the face of a family member that's doing what she can to make sure you or your loved one survives this epidemic. Kim, back to you.
Darwin, thank you. Joining me now is Martha Grayson. I know we don't have a lot of time here, but Martha, we want to hear the story of your daughter and the battles that she faced. Tell us her story.
Yes, my daughter had her first beer when she was 12. That started a process of wanting to drink every weekend and doing whatever she could to find a beer or two to take to a friend's house. We intervened about a year into it, and she went to a program, went to a boarding school for a while, and things kind of died down. But when she came back at 15, it escalated. She was going out every night, sneaking out every night with friends. She was using more and more drugs, marijuana, and other drugs that we found out about later. So we found an outpatient program for her that was for children between 15 and 25. And she was in that for about 2.5 years. Her disease progressed really rapidly. And the way it progressed, a doctor who was working with her group of kids said that she was one of the 2 worst cases of addiction he had ever seen. Don't know that that was really good news, but that was the way it was. So at 16, I had a conversation with her one night, and she said, "Mom, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to try heroin."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Why?" "Why?" And she said, "Because I'm just the kind of person that has to try everything. That's just the way I learn, and I won't learn that it's bad unless I try it." Well, of course, I knew that that wasn't going to be the case, but I couldn't keep her from using either as much as I tried. And things escalated after that. She overdosed for the first time when she was 17, and probably overdosed 10 to 15 times in all over the next 5 years. She was in and out of programs. She wanted to get sober. She tried really hard. The counselors would tell me, "You know, your daughter has such a powerful story." And I would say, "What do you mean, powerful story?" And they said, "Well, she wants to get and stay sober so badly."
We're going to have to, I know.
Anyway,
we're out of time, but her daughter died at 22, and now you carry her hair around with you.
I have her ponytail, and this is the only thing that I have left of my daughter.
Thank you so much, Martha, for sharing your story. Really appreciate it. We've got just a few seconds here left, and I want to end with Virginia Guy. Real quick, Virginia, the downtown Mobile is being lit up purple for today.
Right. The towers downtown are lit in purple, and that is the color of recovery. And we are celebrating people in recovery, and still while we're remembering people we've lost to overdose.
For those people out there who need help and they've been listening, because I know everything is being broken down here now and it's ending, what can they do?
Please reach out for help. If you or a loved one is suffering with a substance use disorder or addiction, please call. There's a lot of help available. We can connect you with the right people, and we can get you the help that you need.
All right, 93,000. Over 93,000 people died from overdose last year. 2020 during the pandemic. 2021 doesn't seem to be any better, does it?
No, it's gotten much, much worse. So we need everybody's help.
All right, if you know someone who is suffering from addiction, or if you yourself are battling with it, you have a family member, there's help out there. You've heard the many stories out there. Some ended not so well. Others, you've heard from people like Haley, who's an amazing recovery and has a recovery program that she started some ladies. So please reach out to the Drug Education Council to get the help that you need. Virginia, thank you so much for inviting us down here. And thank you so much for joining us for our town hall today, Addicted in Alabama. Again, the statistics are so overwhelming. So many people